Hey Taurus, here's your weekly horoscope for January 31 to February 6th. Well, it's no fun being your sign these days. We have Mars in Taurus squaring the Sun in Aquarius all week. Since Mars went into Taurus on January 6th, it seems to have brought a lot of strife and frustration to a lot of people, or increased the strife and frustration that some of us have already been dealing with. Unfortunately, with the Sun in Aquarius squaring Mars in your sign this week, it does tend to indicate that more than any other time this week, more than any other time this year, this week may be especially frustrating for you. And unfortunately, with Mars in Taurus in your solar first house squaring the Sun, there's a tendency for very violent reactions, anger, frustration. Um, when Taurus loses their cool, they tend to be like a bull in a china shop, is the cliche. But you're going to be very challenged this week, Taurus, to keep it together because the Sun Mars square can be indicate a very frustrating period, and you tend to be extremely patient, but you've had to be very patient for almost a year, like everybody else, and everybody's patience can only go so far. And when you have this kind of an aspect, yes, you're very much challenged to keep your cool this week. So I caution you to be aware of this aspect, and not only this one, but Mercury retrograde and a few other things. Let's talk about the planet Uranus in Taurus. Um, every 84 years or so, Uranus moves into the sign of Taurus, and if there's any sign that Uranus should not be in, it's Taurus. And if there's any planet that Taurus should not have to deal with, it's Uranus. Unfortunately, what the planet represents and the sign represents are just at loggerheads. Uranus is all about bringing in the new and embracing change and the future, and Taurus is a sign that is very conservative, old-fashioned, and does not like to make any changes at all. So, in a year of major changes, this has got to be a very frustrating situation for Taurus people. And this week, you need to really be aware that your anger and frustration level are this close to the surface, and you might need to take a little bit of extra discipline to keep it together. Now, things that you can do, of course, Taurus, you love food, we know that, so you could involve yourself with cooking and baking. I'd say throw the diet out the window this week. I mean, what the heck, there's just so many frustrations going on that you should try to at least have pleasure wherever you can. As well, we have Saturn in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. So again, these Aquarius planets in Taurus clashing are not great for anybody because these are going on in the sky, so they affect every sign. But in particular for your sign, you're feeling especially restricted and hemmed in now, and you may feel very closed in by people or situations that are very hard to come out under. This may have to do with the pandemic and forced quarantine, but it may also be that being forced in quarantine with people you live with has you see all kinds of their shortcomings, and because you're already feeling frustrated, you may take this too far and be a little bit too critical and a little too judgmental of people that you live with. Now, if they're behaving very badly, or they're the ones creating the frustration and the anger within you, then, well, it might be a time for you to look at trying to get out from under that in a better way. If you are the one actually being grumpy and grouchy and everyone else you live with is happy except you, then perhaps the problem is you. And I would dare say that with the Saturn-Uranus square that you may be enduring, it's probably a good idea for you to perhaps give other people the benefit of the doubt and find a way to, I suppose, not feel so stuck, because that's part of the problem. Now, Taurus normally doesn't mind being stuck in the mud. I mean, there's all kinds of cliches around the earth and Taurus that I could say, but they're not helpful to the situation. But it is that you do need to get away from the negativity and the frustration that you're feeling. Whether it is caused by anyone else or not is immaterial. It's your feelings and emotions. You know, sometimes I tell people that we think we can't control our emotions, and society tends to forgive emotional reactions, especially around grief. but sometimes, we forgive ourselves for our emotional reactions when actually what we should be doing is trying to have more self-control over our emotions. But Taurus, being as you're stubborn and you don't take to change very easily, I'm not going to try to change you. I'm just asking you to take a look deeply within yourself to see, is there anything about you or that you're doing that might be contributing to the anger and frustration that you could be feeling this week. And if that's the case, stop doing it. But if it's circumstances that are outside your control, then the serenity prayer might be something good to remember this week, Taurus, and only get upset about the things that you can actually change. If you can't change a situation, I suggest give in or put it aside, let go, but you need to let go of anger and frustration because I'm concerned about it hurting you. Some soft spots this week. We have Pluto semi-sextile Mercury. It was conjunct Venus last week in Capricorn. That might have been at least not as harsh of a week for some of the earth signs with that aspect. But Chiron sextiling Saturn all month and sextile Venus from Thursday on this week as well can provide some soft spots. With Chiron in your 12th house of hidden matters, I really have to say, Taurus, that if you are really feeling that frustration and unhappiness are really major right now, that you should probably consider talking to a professional, talking things out with a friend, spouse, loved one. If the frustrations or difficulties involve them, then talk to a professional. But I am concerned about Taurus holding in all this frustration this week, because if it comes exploding out, it's going to cause you and others a lot of damage. So I'm just trying to caution you to have more self-control and to seek help for any issues that you're having this week, Taurus. I hope in general it's not as bad as I've suggested, and I do hope that you do have a good week ahead.